Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to our series Pagan Problems. This week we're going to be talking about seizing opportunities for kitchen craft. Now, kitchen craft is one of the most readily accessible ways that we can practice our magic. It's also very discreet for those who are still inside the broom closet, even within their own family circle. So you might think, well, that seems very strange. Why would we have to seize opportunities for that? Wouldn't it just kind of be a natural outlet? And it is, and it isn't. Because so often cooking can become very routine, very mundane, and especially at the end of a workday, it's just kind of get it done, get it out of the way, get the dishes put away, and then do everything else that you need to do. Particularly if you have a family and you're raising children and you're dealing with them and your spouse and the pets and the chores for the house and why hasn't the lawn been mowed and everything else that can kind of pile up. Sometimes the idea of going to any kind of extra effort at all, it's just too much. Just like, nope, nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it at all. And I can relate to that. One of the last jobs that I had, it had a very erratic schedule and it created absolute havoc in my life. And there were certain periods of time in which I'd be working 7 days a week. And this could go on for months. And I mean months. It was very destructive on life. It was very destructive to every aspect of my life. It took a toll on my relationship with my now husband. It took a toll on my housekeeping ability. And if you thought I was doing anything other in the kitchen other than putting the kettle on, anything that involved more effort than that, I mean, you've got another thing coming. I was worn to the bone, so I absolutely understand. And it was just draining me. It really was. And then one day, one of my friends at work, she observed, she was just looking at me. She's really very intuitive. And she just looked straight in the eye and she said, "You're not doing your rituals, and I can tell you're not doing your spells, and it's taking a toll." And I was so frustrated because, for one, it was right, and I wasn't in a position to where I wanted to hear about it or deal with it. And especially when she said, "You are ignoring the things that are going to help you through this. You're ignoring the things that will make you feel better." And so I thought about that because at that job that you were at, it was a very routine, mundane kind of work. It didn't really require higher cognitive functions. So there was plenty of time for me to do what I needed to do at work and still have plenty of brain space for actual thinking. And I got to realizing, you know what? She had a point. I was very tired. I had gotten out of the habit of my rituals. I had gotten out of the habit of my magic. And it was taking an absolute awful toll because those things did make me feel better. They did recenter me and they did help reconnect me to the God and the Goddess, which if you're going through hard times, you do need to have that connection. Even though it might seem like you're doing something extra, you still need to feed that relationship and be fed by them. So I thought, well, what about something small? What if I just start blessing my tea in the morning? Treat the sugar the way I would treat any kind of sweetener and any kind of spell of just, make this day better for me, help me, help me get through it emotionally. What if I just started with simple spur of the moment little spells and chants about that? So I started doing that and I started feeling better. And then I realized because I had neglected myself for so long, I absolutely lost sight that I was essentially rejecting all the things that were going to help me. It would be the same as if I had had this horrible, horrible headache, but then refused to not take any kind of medicine, not even put an ice pack on it, and let's go do the most strenuous thing possible to make this even worse. Oh, and we're also not going to drink the water we should, so we can be dehydrated on top of everything like that. That was essentially the magical and spiritual equivalent to what I was doing. So I decided to straighten up, and that meant forming new habits. And I think that's actually the hardest part of practicing kitchen witchcraft. It's just getting into the habit of it. And I don't mean in the sense of, getting everything arranged, because kitchen craft is very informal. It's not a lot of specialized tools. Your tools are the tools you use anyway, unless, you have special ones set aside. But that isn't always necessarily a have to kind of thing. The difficulty of it was just simply remembering to do it. And of course, when you come home after work and all you want to do is get dinner done and out of the way, well, then it is going to get hard to think, oh, by the way, there are these components in my food. And if they have these associations, I can do a little spell with that. I can activate this energy. I can have it go through my life in a conscious way, and that will benefit me. It'll benefit other people in the house. It'll just make life in general better. Once I got over that initial hurdle, things started to flow a little bit more naturally. Now, kitchen craft, it can be simpler or complicated, and I don't think it necessarily results in different magnitude, whether or not it's simple or complicated. Is your intent focused enough? Now, this can be more difficult if you have a lot of different ingredients and a lot of different dishes. And if those ingredients aren't being used for the same general magical purpose, then, your intentions are scattered and it makes manifestation less likely. And it is a little bit of self-sabotage. So sometimes I think this is definitely a case of simple is often best, but if you are awakening the energies and multiple ingredients, at least make sure that they are all corresponding essentially with the same and one intention. But do try to keep it down to one intention. For example, we have Thanksgiving rapidly approaching. Well, there are certain things I'm going to be doing. One of the associations with the turkey is, of course, abundance. So I'm going to be focusing all my magical workings and all of my kitchen spells that day around the idea of abundance. Now, there's a lot of other intentions I could set, but because I think that one is very important, particularly going in through winter, and I can get very focused with it, that's going to be more effective than if I tried to, do this with the green beans or do that with the potatoes or do this with the pumpkin pie. No, 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 no. I look for the ingredients that share the common magical intention, and that is where I will focus. And so, if you are wanting to make an attempt, either this Thanksgiving or just in general with your cooking, focus on just having one intent and building on that. Now, the beautiful thing about kitchen craft is that it is the most perfect opportunity for everyday forms of magic. We all need to eat, and there's no reason why that can't also involve a magical experience with it. Why should, I mean, the nutrients, the magical properties of all of these foods, I mean, they are there for us to use. I mean, it seems very silly to neglect it when you start thinking about it. And even on the days when you're not cooking, that doesn't mean that you can't, at the very least, give a blessing over the meal. There are still things you can do even if you were not involved in the cooking process. Now, I think it's easier to infuse food with magical intention through the cooking process, but if you're grabbing a pizza on the way home or whatever you're doing, don't think that you have missed your opportunity because there are still things you can do. And again, it can be just very informal, very simple, very on the cusp. You don't, have to necessarily have a written out spell in your book of shadows or anything of that kind. You can come up with something off the top of your head that comes from your heart that will serve the purpose. Now, what makes it easier to do this is if you have a general familiarity with the magical correspondences for the foods you tend to eat on a regular basis. Now, if you're doing something different in the kitchen, you might want to look things up and see, what you've got to work with. But if you just focus on understanding the core properties of things you do eat on a regular basis, that's also going to help forming the habit of doing kitchen magic and just seizing an opportunity, doing something where you're not necessarily casting a circle and putting on ritual robes and doing all this other stuff. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple. See what happens. See if you like it. So that's pretty much what I have to say on that topic for right now. Possibly in the new year, we're going to be getting into kitchen witchcraft, household magics, and a lot more detailed minutia. But we'll have to see. So hopefully you'll stay around for that in the coming months. But for now, if you haven't already, please visit me at Blackbird's Brew on Discord. There's a link to join in the description box below. And of course, as always, subscribe, like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.